cents off every gallon every day with Make It Count rewards for Marathon. To sign up, visit MakeItCount.com or download the free app. Also, Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, is presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Get your quote at Progressive.com today. Always an honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line with me right now, the voice of Monday Night Football, coming to you live on this particular morning, afternoon, wherever you are, from San Francisco, California, site of Monday Night Football. The one and only Booger Mcfarland is on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, Stephen A. How you doing, brother?
Always good to talk to you, my man. Always good to talk to you. Tonight's game, you've got a situation, and I'll get into Cleveland against San Francisco in just a couple of minutes or so, because that's a big Monday night game as far as I'm concerned. I'm interested in seeing Jimmy Garoppolo going up against Baker Mayfield. But before I do that, you heard the news. Jay Gruden has been dismissed as head coach for the Washington Redskins. Your reaction?
Well, it was probably long overdue. I think if you look at Jay's history there, only one playoff appearance, no playoff wins. His success at getting quarterbacks to play at a high level hasn't been there. And then you just look at the situation now. You know, they drafted Dwayne Haskins in the first round, and it's widely known that Jay didn't want Dwayne Haskins. So you have a rookie quarterback that needs coaching up with a coach that doesn't want him in an organization that's seemingly trying to move toward the young quarterback at some point, whether it's this year or next year. So I think when you marry everything together, Stephen A., and the players even said it, that this had the feeling of coming down the pipe a long time ago, and I'm just glad it came so everyone can move on.
Booger, as you look at this right now, what do you think? What direction do you think the Redskins should go in? Is there a particular candidate you think they should pursue? What's on your mind as you watch the Redskins and their dysfunctionality rake through this franchise over the last several years? What's the remedy to what ails them?
Well, I think it's upper management and ownership turning over football operations to whoever they feel like they need to hire. And, you know, whichever direction they want to go. You know, the trend is if you have a rookie quarterback or a first-year quarterback, then what you want to do is hire somebody that can coach him up and bring him along and put him in a system where he can be successful. And so whichever young offensive mind they find, whether it's someone on staff or it's someone that they go out and get, turn football operations over to him and allow him to be successful that way. So I think that's the only way to go. It's hard to run a football program with the owner and some people in upper management constantly getting involved with the day-to-day operations that are happening on the field.
Booger Mcfarland right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. You know, I watched, it was a beautiful Sunday for me personally, Booger, because I watched the Dallas Cowboys lose. No doubt that their fans everywhere are miserable right now and worried, and nothing pleases me more. Nevertheless, it's a situation right now where we're looking at the Dallas Cowboys offense, and we're wondering what the hell is going on. Clearly, the elevated level of competition between New Orleans and then yesterday Green Bay speaks volumes compared to their three previous opponents with the Giants, Washington, and Miami. But in the end, when you looked at the Dallas Cowboys yesterday, why did they lose that game?
Well, I think that, you know, Dallas kind of got away from whatever their identity has been, which is it's been play action. It's been the RPO system. It's been kind of leaning on Zeke. And then when you take Zeke away, now Dak Prescott can get some one-on-one clean looks and good opportunities on the outside. Yesterday, even though Zeke was successful, they went away from him. And, you know, defensively, they couldn't stop the run. Their starting defensive tackle, Antoine Woods, he's been out, so they were kind of vulnerable up the middle. So I just think it was a culmination of things defensively and offensively. And once the Cowboys get behind, you know, even if it's early in the game, someone needs to tell them that there's 2.5 quarters left. You still can run the football, but these teams get down early in the game and they want to go away from who they are. And I think Dallas hopefully learned a lesson that no matter how much we want to pay Dak Prescott and how much we want to log Kellen Moore, and I've been guilty of that also, that this team is going to be built and going to go as far as Zeke and that defense and them playing minimal amount of plays can take it.
Are they the best team in the NFC East, or are you willing to sit up there and put that on hold because of what you're seeing from the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, it just depends on, are we going to get a Philadelphia Eagles team that's going to be healthy? I think when Philadelphia is healthy, I think they're as good as anybody. But, I mean, with Philadelphia being banged up in some of their positions and Dallas forgetting their identity, I think you have to kind of open the NFC East back up. And I think, you know, you got to take a long, hard look and see who's going to understand how you win football games, who's going to understand what their identity is sooner and stick to it longer. Is it going to be Dallas or is it going to be Philadelphia? I think that's going to be really intriguing to watch as we continue through this season.
How have you felt about what you've seen from Carson Wentz? I see a guy that, you know, obviously the numbers could be better, but I also count about 12 or 13 dropped passes on him this year, which is a league high. What do you see when you're watching Carson Wentz?
I think Carson Wentz is playing well. I think he is starting to get back to form where he was a couple of years ago. He's not there yet. Don't make any mistakes. But if the receivers will catch the football, and I know Aguilar has been, you know, taking a lot of heat for some of their drops, but I think all inclusive between Ertz, between Goddard, Jeffrey, Aguilar, if they will catch the football, Doug Peterson is as good of a play caller as we have in our league. Carson Wentz, if you protect him with the offensive line, is a top 5 unit. I think Philadelphia is going to continue to progress, and they will be one of the 3 or 4 teams in the NFC that's going to be right there, along with Dallas, along with the Saints, right there at the end that you could say, okay, this is a Super Bowl caliber team.
Booger Mcfarland, let's stick with the NFC in a second, but transition to the North. I expected more from the Raiders in London yesterday. Khalil Mack is with the Chicago Bears. He's facing the Raiders for the first time. I don't know how the NFL dropped the ball in putting this game in London as opposed to putting it in Oakland, so Khalil Mack could go back to Oakland for the first time and probably the only time during his career, for crying out loud. It would have been nice to see, but that didn't happen. But I thought that the Chicago Bears laid an egg yesterday. Obviously not having Trubisky matters, but in the end, to lose to the Oakland Raiders, I don't think is a good thing. Thank God they came back from a 17-0 deficit and took the lead before the Oakland Raiders ended up winning with a late TD. But what were your thoughts about what you saw from Khalil Mack and the Chicago Bears, and how do you view them now in light of the fact that they lost this game?
Well, I think you first got to give credit to Oakland. You know, Oakland is better than I think a lot of people think. You got to give credit to Mike Mayock and John Gruden, and they've assembled a team kind of the way they wanted to, which is a bunch of tough, physical guys. Derek Carr, regardless of how fast we wanted to run him out of Oakland, he's starting to play some really good football. You know, Chicago, defensively, they got really out-schemed yesterday, and that's where you got to give John Gruden the tip of the hat, because he looked at this Chuck Pagano defense, and he schemed them up. They had some really good runs. They had a couple tight ends wide open. And offensively, you know, you just felt that Matt Nagy never could get Chase Daniel to settle down. You know, Chase played well against Minnesota when he came in relief. And then all of a sudden he's had a week to think about it. He's the starting quarterback for a few weeks. And it was almost like the moment was just a hair too big for him, especially in some key situations. You know, namely the interception he threw down the stretch. And so Chicago has got a Super Bowl caliber defense, but it's all going to come down to how the offense can perform in crucial situations. I mean, if they get, you know, 17, 21 points consistently, it's going to be tough to beat them, you know, week in and week out. So I think we learned more about Oakland than we did Chicago yesterday.
Booger Mcfarland, voice of Monday Night Football, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get into this Monday Night Football game. We got Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers going up against the Cleveland Browns. There's only 2 undefeated teams left in the National Football League after Kansas City lost last night to Indianapolis, which we'll get into in just a few minutes. They are the San Francisco 49ers, and they are the New England Patriots. When you think about San Francisco and you hear that they're undefeated, what comes through your mind?
They understand who they are, and they stick to that, and they're not going to let anybody change it. Kyle Shanahan has done a good job. Yeah, like if you look at their deficiencies, which is probably going to be their receivers outside, they don't try to hide it. They play with a fullback. Not a lot of teams use a fullback. They got a really good tight end. They're going to run the football, play action pass. Defensively, they got a really good defensive line. They're going to play a lot of zone coverage, keep the ball in front of them. They tend not to give up the big plays. Like, they just play to their strength. I know it sounds simple and easy and just really boring, but they understand what type of talent they have. They put their talent in the best position, and so far it's working. And I think the one thing that's different this year than last year is defensively they're turning the football over. Last year they only had 7 turnovers the entire season. They got 7 already through 3 games this year. So you're giving Kyle, who is a really good rhythm play caller, more opportunities to dial up plays, and he's doing a good job of that.
Booger Mcfarland right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Talk to me about the Cleveland Browns from this perspective. Obviously, that was a big win over Baltimore last week, a win in which they dropped 40. Have they turned things around in your estimation? Did you see something about them last week that was different than anything that you have seen before that makes you confident they could sustain that level of success and really be the kind of threat we all assumed they would be coming into the season?
Yeah, stop believing the hype that you got to throw the football to Jarvis and Odell every play and turn around and hand the football to the guy that's not the sexy name. It's amazing how sometimes we can hype up people and players and storylines so much that, teams start to believe. And we talk about Baker and Odell and Jarvis. Well, the key to their team is number 24, Nick Chubb. Run the football, be physical, because when you have play action, Baker Mayfield is one of the better play action quarterbacks, was in college and is now in the NFL, but he has to have opportunities. Well, how does the play action work? You first have to run the ball to set it up. And so I think if you look last week against Baltimore, they made a concerted effort to run the football, and they did it with 2 tight ends on the field. And so I think, Stephen A., less is more, meaning less focus on Baker and Odell and Jarvis and more focus on number 24, Nick Chubb, I think is the formula. And we'll see if they learned their lesson last week and if they can continue it tonight.
When you watched Cleveland prior to last week against Baltimore, what did you view as problematic for them? A lot of us speculated about what was going on. What were things from your vantage point?
Well, I think you have to have, first, some continuity and consistency, and Cleveland didn't have any. I think, 3 games into the season, if you're going back before the Baltimore game, they're still trying to figure out who they are. Let's not forget, OBJ was not there a lot in the offseason. Freddie is a new coach. He's trying to understand what he has. Njoku got hurt. They're starting tight end, so they got to figure out what they have with Ricky Seals-Jones. So they're putting all these pieces together defensively. Both corners were out. Corners are hurt. Myles Garrett is starting to get going. So it's early in this season. Let's not forget, when the Patriots start 2-2 in the first quarter of the season, nobody panics because we all know that they're going to get better as the season goes on. Well, let's give Cleveland an opportunity to do the same thing. I just think early in the season, they were trying to identify who they are. They tried to be this shotgun team that allowed Baker to throw it to Odell and Jarvis every other play. That didn't work. So now they've settled in after the Baltimore game, and they said they're going to be physical. They're going to run the football. Well, let's see if they do that. And I think if they run the ball tonight, we're going to have a close, physical game that's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think if they try to come out and air it out, then, San Francisco has a defensive line that is very formidable, and it could be a long night for Baker.
Booger Mcfarland, when you stay within the AFC North and you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're 1-4 now after their loss yesterday to Baltimore. Ben Roethlisberger is out. Mason Rudolph is out. And now they've got this kid, Devlin Hodges, who didn't look that bad to me, by the way. But nevertheless, they still lost the game to the Baltimore Ravens in overtime. Is their season over?
No, I'm never going to give up on Mike Tomlin, Stephen A. I think if you look at his track record and what he's done, how he's done it, he's not going to give up. His team doesn't give up, so I'm not going to give up on him. Now, do they have a tough road to hoe? Absolutely. Anytime you're down to your third quarterback in a league that's primarily built around the quarterback, things are going to be tough. And so, Mike's got to figure out a way. He's got to probably do one of his better coaching jobs. And how do you manufacture offense? How do you get a defense to play up to the level with all the first-round picks you have over there? And then, more importantly, how do you stop making the mistakes, whether it's the penalties or the turnovers like Juju Smith had yesterday? And so I think that's going to be Mike Tomlin's biggest challenge. But I will never give up on Mike Tomlin because I think if you look at his tenure, he's proven that that's not smart to do.
We're going to follow right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's stay within the AFC because we watched Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs lose a game last night. I'm going to tell you what shocks me. It's not that the Chiefs lost. It's that every year, every single game last season, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense scored at least 26 points, including this year. This was the first time that did not happen, okay? That's number one. Number two, Indy and that offensive line is so incredibly impressive. But number three, They were able to pressure Patrick Mahomes on the defensive side of the ball by rushing just 4. Those are the things that really, really surprised me about last night's loss by KC to Indy. What about you?
Well, I can see why they surprised you, Stephen A., but if you know Matt Eberflus is the defensive coordinator, none of those things will surprise you. His defense is built on rushing 4 guys and not blitzing a lot. That's number one. Number two, he's built on physicality. And I think if you look at that game last night and you just look at all the little intricacies and the small parts of the game, Indianapolis really just out-hit Kansas City. Like, they were more physical than them. And, to use a boxing term, they took the punch to them. They were more aggressive, whether it's the offensive line and the defensive line, whether it was the corners being physical with the wideouts, whether it was the linebackers being physical with the tight ends. They were the more physical team. And I think if there is a blueprint that's being developed, if there is a kryptonite to Superman and what Andy Reid and them are doing in Kansas City, it is this. If you have a team that can line up and hit them over and over and over, and you have a defensive line that can rush with 4, they're going to struggle because they are not built that way. They are built like basketball on grass. They are built to play in space. They are built to be high-flying, to be footloose and fancy-free. They don't want a dogfight. They want a nice open ring, Steve May. They want the ring open. They want to show the footwork. They want to show all the ringmanship that they have. They don't want a street fight. And I think to a certain extent the coach put them in a street fight last night, and they won.
Booger Mcfarland right here, Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Obviously, we'd be remiss in talking about the AFC, but neglecting to talk about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. They are undefeated. They are 5-0, but one has to look at their level of competition and say, wait a minute now, how much props can we truly, truly give them? Then I watched them go against the hapless Washington Redskins yesterday afternoon, and I've never seen the Redskins pass rush look that way. I mean, they were getting at Tom Brady. They were touching him, make no mistake about it. He's getting the ball out of his hands quicker than he ever has before. That offensive line is clearly compromised to some degree, particularly without center David Andrews. What are your thoughts about the New England Patriots?
5-0. If you know anything about the Redskins, the best part of their team is the defensive line. So that wasn't a surprise with Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen and Ioannidis and those boys up front. So that wasn't a surprise. The Patriots, man, they don't do anything spectacular. They just do all the little fundamental things that just beat you by 1,000 paper cuts over and over and over again. And their defense is as good as anybody in football. And, yes, I mean the Chicago Bears included. So Tom Brady realizes he has a great defense. He has a running back in Sony Michel that can line up and run the football downhill. He's got receivers on the outside in Gordon. He's got a guy that can work you underneath in Edelman. So they are a complete football team, Stephen A. They don't panic. They play the game for 60 minutes. They're not going to wow you, but when you look up at the end of the day, they've won by double digits. And I think the team that played them the best was the Buffalo Bills because they were able to match up, play man coverage, and rush with 4. And it's amazing when you can do that how Tom Brady makes you actually human a little bit. And I don't know if many teams can do that. Detroit can do it. New England can do it. Not many teams around the league can do that. So I think they're going to continue to be successful, but they don't do anything to wow you. But, man, all they do is win, Stephen A.
Well, let me ask you this. If you had to pick a favorite for the Super Bowl coming out of the AFC this year, right now, who would it be?
I think you got to lean toward New England because of their defense. You know, Kansas City's offense may be more high-flying, but New England's got the better defense. And I'm always – I made a mistake a couple years ago by saying offense had arrived when Denver took on Seattle in the Super Bowl. It's still usually the team with the better defense wins the game, and so I would lean toward New England right now.
New England. What about in the NFC?
It's still to be written because Drew Brees is hurt. So the Saints, even though they're winning, they aren't clicking on all cylinders. I know what Dallas is doing. I know what the Rams are doing. And so I think the NFC is a little bit more wide open. Philadelphia is still trying to get healthy. Dallas, Green Bay looks the best. Okay, so I think there are 5 or 6 teams in the NFC, whereas in the AFC, I think it's probably down to two or three, and I think those leading two are going to be New England and Kansas City.
Last question for you, right here on the East Coast in New York City. The Giants lost to Minnesota yesterday, and Kirk Cousins getting themselves humbled. The Danny Dimes is now back to being Daniel Jones. And then, of course, there is the hapless New York Jets. Granted, you got Sam Darnold that isn't available because of mononucleosis. He could be back next week or the week after. We don't know yet. But obviously, guys like studs like Jamal Adams is getting incredibly distressed and frustrated. Can't blame him. Is there any end of this misery in sight for us New Yorkers?
Probably not. Not this year. I think, Sam Darnold, when he gets back, they'll be better next year. But they're just, anytime you lose two or three quarterbacks, it's just not feasible to win. And, Saquon Barkley being out is hurting the Giants. But that defense has got to be better. I think both the Giants and the Jets will be better next year. But, this is a valuable year. Daniel Jones is getting experience, and so is Sam Darnold. And so as long as your guys get experience, and at some point that experience will lead to better play on the field, I think both of them have better days ahead.
Booger Mcfarland, look forward to watching you tonight, my man. Cleveland at San Francisco. Can't wait, my man. You take it easy, all right?
All good, Stephen A. Looking forward to it, buddy.
All right, buddy. The one and only Booger Mcfarland right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. We'll get back to your calls and more in just a minute. So don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, when it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need to get to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job and set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using it.